You know that feeling right in your gut just before something big is about to happen. Maybe you're like waiting for that text back after a first date, or you're walking into a really important job interview.
Yeah, that nail-biting moment.
Exactly. Or just hitting refresh on your screen, waiting for news that could, change everything. It's this knot of nerves, right? Thoughts racing. But often mixed in there's also this little buzz, maybe, a bit of excitement.
Definitely. It's rarely just one thing.
That whole complex internal thing, that's anticipation. It's this really powerful state, always looking forward. But it's amazing how that same buildup can feel like thrilling excitement one minute and then just totally debilitating worry the next.
Yeah, it swings wildly sometimes.
Welcome to the deep dive. Today, we're diving right into that feeling. We've pulled together insights from psychology, neuroscience, real-world stuff too, to try and understand anticipation. What it actually is, how it affects our minds, our bodies, and really importantly, how we can maybe learn to manage that buildup, whether it feels more like anxiety or excitement. Our mission basically is to unpack the science and find some practical ways to handle its pull.
Yeah, it's such a common experience, but like you said, it's definitely not simple. And our sources, they really stress this dual nature right away.
Okay.
So on one hand, it's described as this general sort of apprehension about what's coming. But if you dig a little deeper, psychologists often define it more tightly. They talk about worry and nervousness about things that might happen.
Might happen. So the uncertainty is key.
That's exactly it. The uncertainty, these future events. Maybe they'll happen, maybe they won't. And even if they do, they might not actually be negative. It's the not knowing.
Right. So it's not just fearing something bad is definitely coming. It's the maybe.
Precisely.
Yeah.
And a huge part of what feeds the anxious side, the worry side of anticipation, is that feeling of, anticipating a lack of control over the situation, or maybe even how we'll react to it. And the research, it actually makes a distinction between this kind of anticipatory anxiety and something called phasic fear.
Phasic fear. Sounds a bit technical.
It does, but it just means fear that's really short-lived.
Yeah.
It's a reaction to a threat that's predictable. Right there, immediate.
Like if you almost step on something, that sudden jump?
Exactly. That sudden jolt when you see a snake right by your foot, boom, that's phasic fear. It's instant, tied to something clear and present.
Got it. Clear danger, quick reaction.
Right. But anticipatory anxiety, that lingers, it hangs around. It's a reaction to a potential threat, an unpredictable one, or maybe not even a threat, just uncertainty about something important coming up. And what's really fascinating, brain imaging studies, using fMRI where they can see brain activity.
Yeah, like watching the brain light up.
Exactly like that. These studies show that phasic fear and this anticipatory anxiety, they actually activate different parts of the brain. They're separate experiences, neurologically speaking.
Wow, that's incredible. So the brain literally has different wiring for dealing with a definite danger versus the possibility of something unknown down the road.
It really seems that way. And, to capture that feeling we get while we're waiting, that mix of like hope and fear, the sources use this term anticipatory effects.
Anticipatory affect, okay.
Think about dating again. After a really good first date, you're kind of in agony waiting for that text, right? Your brain's going, do they like me? Oh God, did I say that weird thing?
Totally. Been there.
But at the same time, there's this rush, isn't there? What if this is it? What if this is amazing? That really potent mixed nervousness about maybe getting rejected, but also exhilaration about maybe connecting. That's anticipatory effect. And it's incredibly powerful. It keeps you hooked, waiting.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense. Let's talk about how it actually feels in the body and mind. Because getting caught up in anticipation, it can really take over everything. The sources list a huge range of reactions.
Oh, absolutely. It's not just in your head. Your body is deeply involved. You can get physical symptoms like headaches, feeling nauseous, sometimes even digestive issues like diarrhea.
Really? Wow.
Yeah. Or feeling hot or cold, sweating, breathing fast, feeling dizzy or lightheaded. Your heart might pound, you get a dry mouth, or sometimes just feel totally wiped out, just exhausted. And some sources even point to more intense things, like hyperventilating, actual chest pain, or muscle spasms.
So it's genuinely physical. It's not just, all in your head or worrying too much.
Not at all. The body is on high alert. And then this spills into how we act, our behaviors. You might see people fidgeting a lot, pacing back and forth, maybe talking really, really fast. Sometimes it comes out as being more irritable or even aggressive, like road rage can be fueled by this stuff. You often see changes in eating habits. Sleep patterns get disrupted.
Yeah, sleep definitely goes out the window sometimes.
Right. And unfortunately for some people, it can lead to avoidance, just trying to escape the feeling by dodging the situation altogether, or even sometimes turning to substances to try and numb that anxiety.
Avoidance. Yeah, I can see that. If it feels that awful, your instinct is probably just to run away from it.
It is. And emotionally, well, it's a whole spectrum there too. Fear, obviously, excessive worry, but also anger, sometimes even rage or feeling depressed, irritability, agitation, maybe crying easily, and just that constant nagging feeling of apprehension, like something's looming.
And inside your head, what's going on mentally?
Mentally, it's often just chaos. Racing thoughts are super common. Makes it really hard to focus on anything else. Negative thoughts tend to dominate. And a really classic sign is catastrophizing. Your mind just leaps to the absolute worst possible thing that could happen.
Right. What if it all goes horribly wrong?
Yeah.
Spiral.
Exactly that spiral. You can feel hopeless, helpless sometimes. And there's this really draining pattern called rumination, where you just get stuck, playing those anxious thoughts over and over and over in your head.
It sounds like like a full body, full mind storm.
It really can be.
Yeah.
Now, usually the symptoms kind of build up gradually as the uncertain moment gets closer. The good news, though, is they often fade pretty quickly after it's over.
Okay, that's something.
Yeah, but the challenge is when the end isn't clear. If you don't know when it's going to be resolved, or if the thing you're dreading might just pop up unexpectedly, or sometimes even if the event never actually happens, but the possibility just hangs there, that prolonged uncertainty, that's when anticipatory anxiety gets really tough to manage. It can feel relentless.
And I guess if it's really intense, it can start impacting your actual life, like holding you back.
Oh, absolutely. Severe anticipatory anxiety can become really life-limiting. It might make you avoid important things, job interviews, social stuff, travel maybe. That puts a strain on relationships because you might seem withdrawn or just constantly on edge.
Yeah.
And it can seriously mess with your work or studying if you're always distracted by that internal worry.
Hard to function well.
Okay, so given how intense this can be, physically and mentally, it really makes you ask why. Why are our brains wired like this? Let's get into the brain's role here, because dopamine comes up a lot, right?
Yeah, dopamine, it gets so much press as the reward molecule, doesn't it? We usually think, okay, dopamine flows when we get something good.
Right, like eat chocolate, get dopamine.
Kind of. But the sources really highlight this crucial twist. Dopamine activity, especially in brain areas tied to motivation, like the nucleus accumbens. It's actually strongest, most active, not when a reward is guaranteed, but when it's uncertain.
The slot machine effect. Or checking your phone for notifications. Exactly. That's the variable reward schedule. Why are those things so addictive? Because every pull of the lever, every single ping on your phone, it offers the chance of something good. A win, a like, a message, whatever. That unpredictable possibility, that triggers a bigger dopamine hit than knowing for sure you'll get something. It literally conditions our brains to crave the maybe more than the guaranteed yes.
So the thrill of the chase isn't just a saying, it's brain chemistry.
It really is. The brain seems to see unpredictability as this kind of challenge or maybe an opportunity that needs attention and energy. And for some people, that chase, that feeling itself becomes the main reward. It can become addictive.
Oh, wow.
The sources mention examples like, pathological gamblers or people who just cannot stop checking their phones. They're often hooked more on that intense dopamine rush of the maybe than on whatever they're actually hoping to get.
But you mentioned dopamine it's not just one simple signal. That kind of adds another layer, right? It makes it even more complex why anticipation feels so mixed.
It really does. Neuroscience tells us dopamine neurons aren't all doing the same job. We used to think it was just reward, reward, reward.
Yeah.
But the research shows there are different types. Some dopamine neurons do track value. They get excited by good outcomes, inhibited by bad ones. That fits the idea of reward prediction error. They signal if things are better or worse than expected.
Okay, so part of it is about value. Good or bad. What else?
Well, another group of dopamine neurons seems to track salience, which basically means importance or how much something stands out, regardless of whether it's good or bad.
Yeah.
So these neurons get excited by both rewarding things and unpleasant, aversive things. It's more like an is this significant, does this matter kind of signal.
So one group is asking, is it good? The other is asking, is it important?
Pretty much. And then, layered on top of that, many dopamine neurons also fire off this really rapid alerting signal, like a quick, hey, pay attention, whenever something unexpected or potentially important happens around us, a sensory cue.
Okay, This is really starting to explain that mixed feeling, isn't it? The brain isn't just giving a thumbs up or thumbs down on the future. It's juggling potential value plus overall importance plus this instant alert signal. And the whole system gets extra revved up by uncertainty.
Exactly. It's
Yeah.
this incredibly complex system trying its best to get us ready for whatever might be coming, even when whatever is totally unclear. It's trying to cover all the bases.
So if this is how our brains are wired, kind of fundamentally, why do some people seem to handle this tension so much better than others? Some people even seem to, enjoy it. Which brings us to personality, maybe culture.
Yeah, individual differences are definitely huge here. One thing that comes up is being a high sensation seeker.
Okay, what does that mean?
These are people who are just naturally drawn to experiences that are new, complex, intense. Uncertainty, because it's unpredictable and potentially intense, actually gives them the stimulation they're looking for. So for them, that little edge of anxiety might not feel like a problem. It might actually feel like part of the fun, part of the excitement they want.
So the same feeling that makes one person want to hide under the covers makes another person feel alive.
Exactly. And then there's another trait, tolerance for ambiguity. Some people are just better able to sit with situations where things aren't clear, where there aren't easy answers.
They don't need everything figured out right now.
Right. They don't feel that intense pressure to resolve the uncertainty immediately. And this trait, it's actually linked to being more resilient, more creative even. It lets them perhaps reframe that uncomfortable, anxious feeling, maybe see it less as danger and more as just curiosity. Wonder how this will turn out. It reminds me of that idea of negative capability, being okay with mysteries and doubts.
Reframing anxiety as curiosity. That's a really interesting shift in perspective.
It is. And
Yeah.
then there's this kind of fascinating control paradox that might be going on for some people.
Control paradox.
Yeah, people who have deep fear of losing control. Surprisingly, they might actually choose to put themselves into uncertain situations, things like extreme sports, maybe high-stakes performances.
Why would they do that? Seems counterintuitive.
Well, the idea is, by voluntarily stepping into a risky or unpredictable situation, they paradoxically regain a sense of control. They're controlling the choice to face the uncertainty. So the anxiety becomes something they chose to engage with, not something that's just happening to them.
Ah, okay. Taking on a challenge you picked yourself feels different, more empowering.
It really can. And, the sources also touch briefly on cultural factors, like in cultures that maybe place a high value on patience or stoicism, the act of waiting might be seen differently, framed as a virtue maybe or a test of character. That cultural lens can change how you experience the discomfort of waiting, make it feel less like a personal failing and more like a challenge you rise to. And, in our super fast-paced instant gratification world today, intentionally choosing to wait or just embracing those natural times of unpredictability, it can almost feel like a small act of rebellion. Adds a bit of, spontaneity back into life.
That's a great point. Okay, so understanding the why and the individual differences, that's super helpful context. But when anticipation feels really overwhelming, especially the anxious kind, you need tools, practical stuff. And the sources definitely offer some solid strategies for managing that buildup.
They really do. And if there's kind of one core idea running through a lot of them, it's this. Focus on what you can control.
Right.
You often can't control the future event itself. The uncertainty is just there. But you can work on controlling your response to it, your thoughts, how your body feels, what you do right now in this moment.
That shift alone, from focusing outward on the what if to focusing inward on what can I do, that feels powerful already. So where's a good place to start, practically?
Well, one really key step is tackling those catastrophic thoughts we talked about earlier. You have to catch them, recognize them for what they are, just what-if stories, assumptions about the future, not actual facts. And try to consciously bring your focus back to the present. Positive affirmations can actually help here. Not like magic, but as a tool to actively steer your thoughts away from those worst-case scenarios.
Okay, so stop that runaway train of negative possibilities.
Yeah, exactly. And something else that seems really basic, but is just profoundly important, is sleep. Prioritize getting enough sleep.
Ah, yes. The
Yeah.
foundation.
Absolutely. Because lack of sleep makes anxiety so much worse. Research, like from UC Berkeley, shows sleep deprivation basically turns up the volume in the emotional processing parts of your brain, like the amygdala, makes you much more reactive.
So it's a vicious cycle. Anxiety messes with sleep, then less sleep makes you more anxious.
Totally vicious cycle.
Right.
So getting enough sleep is just fundamental for building your resilience against anticipatory anxiety.
It really shows how linked the mind and body are.
It really does. And another key thing is to proactively develop your relaxation response.
Yeah.
Like have some techniques ready to go when you feel that anxiety starting to creep up. Tools that help you focus on the present and just calm your nervous system down.
Like breathing exercises, those seem to come up a lot.
They do because they work. Deep breathing directly affects your physiology. Things like diaphragmatic breathing, belly breathing, where your stomach rises more than your chest, followed by a slow exhale, that can physically lower your heart rate. Another really good one is box breathing. Super simple. Breathe in for 4 counts, hold for 4, breathe out for 4, hold for 4, repeat. It's very grounding.
I like that. Simple, structured, one of those sources mentioned an example, right? Someone using this.
Yeah, there was Tom, a competitor. He used box breathing right before starting his warm-up. Just a couple of minutes doing that structured breathing helped lower his heart rate, cleared his head a bit before he got going. And he found doing it consistently actually reduced his overall race day anxiety over time.
That's a perfect example. A small, deliberate action making a real difference. What about other techniques besides breathing?
Yeah, others mentioned were progressive muscle relaxation tensing and releasing different muscle groups, guided imagery creating a calming, safe place in your mind, and various kinds of meditation. There was another example of Mark, an athlete, who started using guided meditation before races. He said it didn't just reduce his anxiety, but actually improved his focus during the race, which helped his performance.
So these are all ways to kind of anchor yourself in the now when your mind wants to jump ahead into worry.
Exactly. Anchoring yourself. And something else, really important, but maybe easy to overlook, is practicing self-compassion.
Being kind to yourself about it.
Yeah. The sources suggest talking to yourself like you would talk to a good friend who's feeling anxious. Offer yourself some kindness, some support. Acknowledge that, yeah, this feeling is hard, but you're doing okay. You're handling it. The example they used was like reassuring a friend who's scared of flying. You would just dismiss their fear, right? But you might gently remind them, flying is statistically very safe. Maybe mention that less than 1% chance of disaster thing. That kind of self-kindness helps stop you feeling so isolated with the feeling, helps you be mindful without judging yourself, and it quiets down that harsh inner critic that loves to pile on when you're feeling vulnerable.
Because, yeah, beating yourself up for feeling anxious just adds another layer of stress.
It really does. Sometimes, though, you don't need a deep technique. Sometimes you just need a break from the thoughts. Healthy distraction is totally valid.
Like what?
Go for a walk, put on some music you love, tackle a simple chore, watch a funny video, read a chapter of a book, call a friend just to chat about something else entirely. Just shifting your focus for a bit can break that anxiety loop, gives your brain a breather.
Okay. What about routines? You mentioned predictability helps.
Yeah, establishing routines is super helpful, especially if you face the same kind of anticipation triggering event regularly. A consistent pre-event ritual can signal to your body and mind, okay, it's time to focus now. This could include a physical warm-up, maybe some mental prep like visualization, those breathing exercises, again, affirmations. There was an example of Emma, a first-time competitor. She created this whole routine, warm-up, breathing, reviewing her goals, listening to specific music, and having that structure, that familiar sequence, really helped her feel more grounded and less stressed on the day.
It gives you that little bit of control and familiarity when everything else feels uncertain.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And kind of related to that is the idea of, well, facing your fear, or maybe just practicing. There you go. What specific part of the uncertain situation makes you most anxious? Then question how likely that feared outcome really is.
Okay.
And then, if it's possible, try simulating parts of that situation in a safe way during practice. It's a bit like exposure therapy. It builds familiarity, makes it less scary over time because it's not completely unknown anymore.
Like doing mock interviews before the real job interview.
Exactly that.
Yeah.
Or for athletes, mock races, training simulations. The source talked about a training camp where they did a full race simulation gear, timing, everything. It helped take the surprise factor out of the real event, built confidence because they knew they could handle it. And reviewing those simulations later helps build a mental blueprint. You feel like you've been there before, even if it was practice.
You're basically proving to yourself you can cope, reducing the unknown.
Yes. And finally, maybe the most important thing, don't try to just tough it out alone. Connecting with support is crucial.
Talk to people.
Yeah. Reach out. Friends, family, a coach, mentor, maybe a community group. Just sharing how you feel can make it feel less overwhelming. And getting encouragement from others, that shared energy, it's a really powerful antidote to nerves and that feeling of isolation anxiety can bring. The example of Lisa finding more confidence training with a group versus alone really showed that power of social support. And, try to keep your usual daily routines going where you can. That background predictability helps too.
And, of course, if these kinds of self-help strategies just aren't cutting it, seeking professional help from a therapist or counselor is always a really good option.
Absolutely. They can help you figure out what's going on and develop a specific plan.
Okay, so wrapping this all up, the core lesson, it seems, is that anticipation isn't some weird glitch. It's fundamental. Part of being human, wired into our biology, our psychology. It's not inherently good or bad. It's just this potent energy source.
That's a great way to put it. And understanding that our brain's reaction to uncertainty is actually really complex. With dopamine, doing multiple jobs, tracking value, tracking importance, firing off alerts, that helps explain why it feels like such a chaotic mix sometimes of hope and dread, excitement and worry. It's our brain trying to get ready for anything.
And the main takeaway isn't about trying to eliminate anticipation altogether, because maybe we can't or shouldn't, but it's about learning how to manage that buildup.
Exactly. Learning to navigate it. By consciously using these practical strategies we talked about, like mindful breathing, challenging those negative thoughts, finding support, focusing on what you can control, you can learn to ride that wave. You can channel that powerful energy, whether it feels like anxiety or excitement, into something useful, like focus or determination, maybe even into finding some joy in the possibility itself.
Okay, so here's a final thought for you, for everyone listening, to maybe chew on after this deep dive. If our brains are actually wired to find uncertainty compelling, not just scary, but actually compelling, even assigning this positive chemical value to the chance to prepare, then could learning to tolerate, maybe even, savor the maybe, could that unlock more than just less anxiety? Could it actually lead to a deeper, richer engagement with life itself, with all its possibilities?
That's a really provocative thought. Seeing the unknown not just as something to fear, but maybe as a space.
Yeah.
A space for potential, for discovery.
Absolutely. Well, that's all the time we have for this deep dive.
Thanks for tuning in.
We'll catch you next time for another deep dive into the topics that make us tick.